Good evening, everyone. I'm Susanna Tavera,
I'm Tim Marshall.
and we are co-chairs of ALI, which is the Alumni Leadership Initiative. It's a subcommittee of the Alumni Association. We put on
Different events throughout the year to help support kind of the growth and development of our current Kean students, as well as our alumni, like the seminar that we have going on tonight on entrepreneurship. Just some of the other things of which ALI does. It's currently involved in mentorship programs for Kean University students, pairing them up with Kean alumni. So that's one of the other programs that we have going on as part of our mentoring committee. But then this program tonight is Kean Connects event on entrepreneurship.
We also put on some webinars, so if you're interested in anything that we've done in the past, everything's online. And if you're interested in either becoming a mentor or mentee, just see one of us, or you can email Stella, and we can get you the information to be part of that program.
Yeah, and if interested in learning more about ALI, feel free to contact either Stella or John or Suzanne or myself to learn more about ALI and when our next meeting date, which is in June. I think it's the third week in June, June 22nd. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joseph Abu, who is our co-chair of the Kean Connect Committee, so he can begin our program for tonight. Thank you. Thanks, Joseph.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Kean Connect Committee, especially Lawana Timothy, who's the co-chair, and myself, I would like to welcome you guys to the seminar. This is the fourth seminar that we are doing for the Kean Connect, and hopefully this will be a long-standing biannual seminar for the rest of the Kean calendar. We have 6 distinguished panelists that's going to show us their expertise in entrepreneuring, and though they have come from different aspects of their fields, they will show us their expertise on what it is to be an entrepreneur. And before I go, I wanted to introduce our moderator, Wally Ibrahim, right?
Yes, thank you.
He is the founder and managing partner of Ibrahim PA, a law firm in Hoboken, New Jersey. Wally will tell us a little bit about himself and then introduce the other panelists. Wally Ibrahim.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thanks, Joe.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Good. Joe and I actually went to college together. Joe was like two years before me, and when he was here, he was running Kean. He was the king of Kean, we used to call him. Always involved in every aspect of Kean University student life. So thanks for that, Joe. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here today. I really when I spoke to John and I spoke last semester about this opportunity, and when I spoke to him about it, I was very pleased to partake in this type of event. A little bit about myself. I graduated in 2009. I graduated criminal justice and psychology. I went to North Carolina Central University School of Law immediately thereafter. And after that, I left. Briefly, I went to Nigeria. I practiced in Nigeria for about 3 months and decided that I hated it, and I came back. So when I came back, I quit my firm that I was working for here in the city. And when I came back, I was just like, okay, what do I do now? Where do I go? There's not really much job outlook out there for lawyers when I graduated. So I just started my own. I literally just said, let me pick up, do some research, figure out what I need to do to get myself started. And immediately thereafter, that's what I did, and I'm still standing. So that's a little bit about myself. After the program, we're kind of pressed for time, so we will meet up. I'll be around for about 30 minutes to an hour afterwards, and I'm more than happy to speak to anyone. So I guess without further ado, we will start with Scott. I'm not going to say last names because I don't want to butcher them, so we'll just say Scott. So Scott's going to come up and introduce himself briefly as well.
How's everybody doing? I'm Scott Schober, President and CEO of Berkeley Varitronics. I graduated here many years ago, back in '92. It feels like a million years ago to me. And then went for graduate studies at NYU. Grew up in a family business. It's now 45 years old. My father has since retired, but still working with my brother. And we're a small design firm, about 30 or so engineers, and we come up with unique products, unique designs. A lot of it's really equipment that's used to make our cell phones work, so we can appreciate being able to talk and email and do all the other wonderful things that we do with our cell phones, but also a line of security tools that are very different than traditional security tools that we sell mostly to DoD agencies. And a lot of that, the results of that ended up kind of coming back to us and being targeted, and we were targeted for various hacks. So that kind of put us into the hacking business in a sense, and cybersecurity, and educating people how to stay safe from cybercrime and identity theft and all these other things. So that's a big part of the business that we deal with as well.
Next, we have Karen Thomas. I can say that.
Okay, I'm the short one. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Thomas, and I'm a kid from Newark. And about 20 years ago, actually 40 years ago, I went to what everybody else called work, but I never feel like I've ever had a job ever in my life, and what I have done has never been a job I've ever applied for. So for 20 years, I worked for Essence Magazine, and there I was able to create the Essence Music Festival, the Essence Awards program, and lots of traveling marketing opportunities, and became a VP for marketing for Time Warner, and grew the brand there into many different ventures, and actually had what they called an entrepreneurial business within Time Warner, and we can talk about that later. And then just had a calling. Someone asked me to look at a business plan, and it ended up being a blank piece of paper, and 20 years from that, I was the head of Marion P. Thomas Charter Schools, which is the largest independent and minority-led charter school organization in the state of New Jersey. We started with 60 children. We now have 1,600 children and 300 employees, and all from a kid from Newark.
Next, we have Mark.
Hi, Mark Callazzo. Scott was talking about cell phones. Last time I was on campus, I didn't have a cell phone. I don't even know if they were out back then, but I graduated in '93. So on my walk-in, I was kind of amazed at all the crazy developments that have happened here. But anyway, my company is Alpha Funding Solutions. We're a bridge lender for builders, developers, and investors. We fund real estate projects, debt restructuring, but everything is real estate based. We also develop real estate projects for our own portfolio, from retail, apartments, single-family houses. So basically anything real estate. That's what I've been involved in ever since I got out of Kean. So I'll talk about that, and I'll be around after, I guess, if anybody wants to talk about my side of the business. Thanks.
Next, we have Sal.
Hey everybody, my name's Sal Garcia. As you see, I don't have a year next to my name. I haven't yet graduated. I did it a little backwards. I graduated high school at 17 years old, and at 31 I enrolled in college. I started my business at 17 as a small construction company and many different aspects of real estate, and today it's developed to a pretty large development firm. I also own a number of other different companies in various different businesses. Proud to say that last year we were able to hire one of the interns who's now running one of the companies. So we still get very involved in Union County and Kean University, and happy to be part of the panel. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Janelle. I'm sorry, I think Janeide.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Janeide Chillis. I am an alumni. I graduated in 2013 after a stroke. I then went on to Drew University to get my Master's of Divinity, pursued my Master's Sacred Theology, and now in the process of getting my doctorate's degree. I started my business in 2000 called StepRite, and then in 2009, I started StepRite Youth Leadership Foundation. And then last year, I got my nonprofit, my 501(c)(3), StepRite for God Ministries, where it allows me to travel around the world helping out orphan children in different countries. And any other information, we can talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess we can say that we have a very qualified group to talk to you guys today. Thank you for that. So we'll just begin. What we'll do is we'll just start asking a few questions to the panelists. We'll have the panelists give a response. If anybody has any questions, you can write them down. And towards the end, we'll give a couple of minutes to have you guys ask questions to the panelists as well. So without further ado, we'll start with Mark. And the first question we have for Mark is, why start your own business? And how do you know your idea is worth pursuing?
I like to drink really expensive wine, and I tried to find a sugar mama out of college, and that didn't work out so well, so I figured I'd better start making some money. I think it's in you to have your own business or it's not. Everybody up here has their own business, and we don't punch a clock. You know, we're punched in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's just something you either want to do or something you don't want to do. But the idea of, waking up and punching in and working for somebody and making somebody else money and not controlling my own destiny is just miserable to me. So I knew from when I got out of college that I wanted to start my own business. I worked in real estate as a real estate appraiser for about a year out of college and started my own business after that. And I've been on my own ever since then.
Very nice. Does anybody else want to chime in on what Mark has to say? Okay, Scott?
I guess starting a business is certainly challenging. In fact, while I was driving here, even talking to my wife, I said, why in the world do I do this? So sometimes I think it's interesting that even though that's something that you love doing, you enjoy it, because you have, in a sense, as what he was mentioning, you kind of have your own control. It's also miserable, too, because it consumes your life. So you have to be willing, I think, to commit to it and work 24/7. You're tied to your computer, your mobile device. You're always selling. You're always trying to help other people understand your business. So I think anybody that's interested in starting up their own business, it's very important to make sure you have that mindset. Can you commit to it? Because it does kind of control your life. There's goods and bads with it, but overall it's very rewarding. But you got to make that investment and say, I'm in for the long haul, and then you'll be very successful at it.
Thank you.
Can I just elaborate a little bit on
Sure,
that?
please.
Even in your investment, starting your own business, you have to ask yourself why. And also, it has to be a passion, because if it's not a passion, you're going to give up. You're not going to pursue it. You're not going to keep going. So when you do start your own business, for me, it was something that I had a passion for. I worked for the government for 26 years, but it wasn't a passion of mine. It was a job. It was an income. So find out your purpose, find out your why, and that's going to lead you to your business.
That's very good advice, actually, because just to piggyback off of that with the passion, when I remember when I was in college and high school, they'll ask me, what's your passion? That's what you should, pursue as a career. And I was like, my passion is money. And where do you get money? You have to, every job has money. So your passion, money, anything that you want to do, money is there. It's just a matter of finding out how to get your hands on it. So passion, I definitely agree with passion. That would be my answer as to, why you should want to start your own business. So the next question we have is for Sal. How much experience, how do you determine if there's a market for your business?
That's an interesting question. I guess it would depend on the type of business that you're looking to start. I would say that today, with today's technologies, I would have to say that people have it a lot easier. I do think that not everyone is an entrepreneur, and I think people need to be very self-aware of what your abilities are and what you can and cannot do. I think what's happened over the years is that entrepreneurship has become glorified. I think people need to realize that the same way you go into entrepreneurship is the same way you become, I guess, a professional athlete. The percentages of being successful are very low. Out of all the startups and companies that start, I would have to say a very small percentage that people become successful in. There must be a percentage that of all businesses fail within the first year or 2 years of operation, so you need to be, pretty strong-minded. So based on whatever your business is, the best way to get out there nowadays is there's so much social media. I personally don't use it as much because my business models don't need it. There are 2 of my companies that do utilize it a lot. Unfortunately, I'm not as tech savvy as the people, but you need to be able to find that. But that's a perfect example of being self-aware of what my abilities are and what I can and cannot do. I think Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these things are great ways to find out where your market is. Yeah. If you can use them, you can find out exactly what you need to sell. I don't know, if you're a hairstylist or if you're something, then you need to find somebody, or if you're selling T-shirts, then you need to find somebody who has 5,000 followers. You need to find that person and get them to wear your product. I mean, eventually that product's, that's the new form of advertising, in my opinion. I don't think commercials, what do we use nowadays? You're watching a commercial, you go boop, boop, boop. You're not watching commercials anymore. But you may sit there on your phone and you're going through and things are popping up. You may not be realizing you're actually paying attention to something. Or you actually were sold something and you didn't even realize it, just because the person you were looking at was selling it. So I think that in order to test markets and get out there, that's going to be your best way. I also believe in that whatever you're selling or whatever you're doing, you need to be able to sell yourself first. You need to kind of put your product behind you. Right. Your product will come. Your product will come through, what you was talking about before, which was your passion. Whatever you're going to do, it's going to sell. Don't worry about it. But you need to be able to say, this person I'm talking to is not conning me. So you need to come off very honest, very truthful in whatever it is that you're doing. And give. I think that if you pay attention, if you want to push your market or find out what it is, you need to find out who's the leader in that market. You can probably follow them online or Facebook or Twitter. I mean, you're going to call it stalking in a sense, but if you're stalking the person that you really want to become, follow what they're doing, follow what they're doing. If you can ever do something for that person, do it for them. Don't ever expect anything back, just do it. I mean, I remember I was starting at 17 years old. Like she was saying before, she never had a job her entire life. That's awesome. I never had a job my entire life either, but I've been working since I was 11 years old. And I think that giving and doing things for people will always come back tenfold. So go to that market, find out who's in charge of it, and just do it. Don't expect anything back. Don't push your product on that person. Don't push your product to do it. And don't ever try to advertise to a market that doesn't want it or doesn't need it, because you're wasting your energy. You should push it to something that, to move or whatever your product is.
So I think there's a great example in the Southwest Airlines model. If you look at how they started, they didn't start in major markets. They started in markets where the gates were cheaper, where there wasn't United, where there wasn't American, and they built their business very slowly. In fact, at a time when the major airlines were merging and not making as much money per capita as Southwest was, they had the most on-time flights, and they got off the ground quicker than any other airline. And so they built their business slowly, and now those red and purple airplanes are in all of the major markets because they were able to identify a need in areas that were underserved and then built their business through that business model. So looking at businesses that did that and successful models can be helpful sometimes.
Yes, Scott?
Maybe just in addition to that, one thing I've learned over the years is whatever your business is, whatever you're selling, your product, your service, make sure it's niche. If you could really define that and define it very well on a piece of paper, what you're offering, and right away, it answers so many other things. You don't have to worry as much about pricing issues. You don't have to worry as much about competition because you did all your homework up front and you've identified something that doesn't exist or is very unique or has differentiators that really stand out. That will allow you to get to scale much quicker and sell things. And of course, you have to believe in it and push and push. I always speak with props, so I brought things, and I do it a little different. I'm always selling. So if I'm on a panel, I'm selling. Why? Because there's a percentage of people out there that actually need something that we offer. Obviously, you don't do it as a salesman, or I'm not selling cars or things like that. But here's an idea that I believed in passionately years ago, probably about 5 years ago now. Simple cell phone detection tool that's used to catch cheating students. So what it'll do is covertly in somebody's pocket, if the proctor or professor is walking around the classroom, this will vibrate and alert them a student's out there searching for an answer or phoning a friend or whatever else. So in the beginning, it sounds like a really dumb idea, and I thought it was at first too, but I kept pushing it, argued against engineers and so on and so forth, and we sold millions of dollars worth of this stupid little idea. So if you believe in your idea and work hard, and again, for this idea to work, I had to identify that niche market, you find the problem, and you make the perfect solution, and then it will sell for itself. It's much, much easier. You don't have to fight that competition, because that's the worst thing. Most small businesses fail because they're competing against other people that are already out there doing it better with more capital, more experience, more manpower, more education. So use the advantages that you have, and use that little niche market, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if you're selling that service, the product, whatever it is, you could still hone in and be very successful, especially with a startup.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I graduated, because if that product pushed before, I might not be standing here today. Thank you so much. The next question is for Janeide. How much experience qualifies you to start your own business?
I'm going to answer that question based on my experience. And I didn't have any experience when I started my own business, but I did have a passion to start my own business. And because I had the passion to start my own business, I sought out Kean University. And in the process of coming to Kean, I came here in a wheelchair. That's how passionate I was to learn about what God had given me, the vision He had given me to pursue my business. And in the process of that, I was able to learn a lot of marketing, a lot of branding tools. So I don't have a problem branding myself at all. I don't think you have to have experience. I think you have to have the niche, the will to, and a little bit of courage to just go forth. If you can see it, if you can vision it, you can do it. If you put your mind to it, it's with determination. That passion, that vision will manifest. So, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have experience, but you should have a desire to get the experience you need to make sure that it's successful.
Thank you.
Not sure what the mic is going through here.
We got it. We got most of it. Any other comments?
I'll say something.
Okay.
Hello? To see if this mic's working. I don't think you need any experience. I think you need a drive. And I also think at the same time you're going to need, no, and it's not even, what you said is actually correct. You have to have the passion. You have to do whatever it is that you're doing. But I think at the same time, I think it's a gift. I don't think anyone and everyone's an entrepreneur. I think you need to be, know where you fit. And I said that before. I think it's very, very important to know what you're able to do. There's some people who, I mean, if you think of Steve Jobs, I mean, he was the entrepreneur, but he didn't even know what a computer was or how to use a computer. You know what I mean? He was the driving push behind that. And by no means am I comparing myself to him. I wouldn't even consider myself to be an extreme entrepreneur. I'm probably not. I know my limits. But at the same time, I don't think you need experience. I mean, at 11 years old, I was already doing entrepreneurial things at certain levels, and I think that, it can come at any age. It's when you become self-aware of what you're able to do with yourself and what you're able to push yourself at. I think it's also being positive and being ready to handle failure and that are going to come. Because if you're not ready for it, it's that's going to be the hardest part. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have failures every single day. If you continue to dwell on those and not move forward, it's never going to happen. So the experience has to be in yourself and know, hey, can I handle the getting punched? Literally, not literally, but you know what I mean? Can I handle that? Can I handle the failure? Can I handle, you know, my product being turned down? Can I handle no's? Can I handle everyone attacking me and stuff like that? I mean, that's what you need to ask yourself. Are you prepared for that?
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I agree with what they're saying. I think one of the biggest things is everybody in this room is going to have an opportunity at some point in their life to open a business or buy a piece of real estate or do a business deal that would be successful. The thing you need to do is, A, be able to recognize that it's a good opportunity, and B, be in the position to actually capitalize on it. So you may have a piece of real estate come up for sale that you have a chance to buy, and you don't have the money or the capital to do it. So you're going to let that go by, and you don't have the network of people to help you buy that or start your business or whatever it is. So it's look for the opportunity, wait for the timing is right, and just do it, because you can have drive and you can have passion and you can have a bad idea or a bad opportunity and you're still going to lose money. So it's finding the right opportunity and capitalizing on it.
Thank you. The next question is for Scott. How do you get or arrange to get capital to start a business?
Well, I think I always encourage people, use what you have and use it sparingly. Far too many people I talk to in the business world are quick to spend money. And I think as you work hard over the years and see how hard it is just to earn a buck, to make a profit, you appreciate how much more so things actually cost. There's nothing wrong with I always say I'm a cheapskate. Question things. Do you really need new furniture when you're starting out? Do you need a big fancy car? Or do you need fancy computer? All the stuff that people need, you really don't need stuff. You need the work ethic. You got to work hard. You can build a brand, build a business. You can be successful. I mean, I learned a lot from my father's footsteps, and he taught me, I think, a decent work ethic. We've been in business 45 years. We've never borrowed money from a bank. I don't pay $1 for advertising, yet we use media, TV, radio, articles, blogging, all the traditional things all businesses use, but we just do our own model. We just don't pay people for it. So you got to be creative, and I call it you got to be cheap sometimes, because it really does work. And if you could put off an expense, our belief is if you can't afford it, you don't have cash for it, then don't buy it. Don't go take a big deep loan, leverage your business and credit cards and all that other stuff. So if you run mean and lean, we did that 45 years ago, and we're still doing it now. It makes a big difference, but it requires a lot of discipline. There's not one company I've ever talked to that does it exactly that way. Everyone says, yeah, but it can be done. It just requires discipline and not having all these wonderful things that everybody thinks you need, because they're creating a perception. A lot of business, successful business, most of it, you could talk to a lot of people, and a lot of it's perception. And many of us have met many famous people perhaps in our lifetime. I know I certainly have met the Donald Trumps of the world and the presidents and others. A fair amount of it is perception. And there's a lot of success too, and a lot of hard work behind it. But I think it's important for startups especially, don't try to fit that bubble that everybody is trying to tell you have to do, what car you have to drive, where you have to live, all that other stuff, because a lot of it's just perception. Focus on your business. Focus on profitability more than focusing on your image, because that stuff comes later on with success. But you'll spend more time and energy worrying about what everyone else is worrying about than profitability. Not many business owners focus on that enough. And so that's always my goal, try to focus on that, and I do much better, and allows me to grow the business without all the stresses of running a business that come day to day.
That also applies to personal. He's 100% right.
Very
Happy that that
I
still
felt
works.
he was
yeah.
talking to me. He was
Yeah,
talking to me.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I mean, the students that are here, you don't need, you got the rest of your life in front of you, 19, 20, 30, 35, 40 years old, still young. You don't need to put all these fancy things in front of you. It's just gonna stop you. And then you start focusing on those things and you forget about what your business is and what your model. Those things are gonna come later on. You know, people wanna have the fancy apartment or the fancy car, like, you're taking your eye off the prize. The prize isn't, you know, I'm sorry, you're keeping your eye on the prize versus, you know, what you're trying to accomplish. It's funny, I always think of the San Antonio Spurs and the Miami Heat game where they started to roll the trophy out, and it looked like the Spurs started to look at the trophy, and they ended up losing the game. Like, that's life. Like, if you pay attention to what's going on, you end up losing the game. You're gonna lose the, you know, you're gonna lose your business because you're more focused about your vacation on Friday. Like, if you have a vacation coming, you probably should, you know, people get excited, like, oh, it's Friday. I have no idea what that means. I've never known what that means. Oh, I can't, it's Friday, or, you know, tomorrow's Monday. Every day of the week, you know, I work 24 hours, 7 days a week. I don't know what, I don't say Monday morning is, or maybe now, you know, with my children now I know, okay, you go to school tomorrow, but it doesn't, my mindset doesn't change in any way. My Friday doesn't mean, woohoo, it's Friday, I'm gone, like, no. And if you want to have a business and you want to be an entrepreneur, there is no days of the week. You need to forget about, you know, leisure and all the other stuff. If you want to watch TV or you want to, you know, go play sports or you want to do this or that, it's not going to happen. Like, you need to focus on what you're doing. If you find the time, then you do it, because it's just, if you're not willing to put the work in, everything's going to fail. You know, I've been doing this since I was 17 years old, or even younger, when I was 11. Literally, when I was 17, I started, but I never, it's crazy. People, I don't even know sometimes what day of the week it is, because it's irrelevant. Not tomorrow's Sunday. I mean, other than going to church on Sunday, you know, it's about the only day that you know, what it is. So people need to realize that. And then people start focusing, oh, it's Friday, I get to go take my car, or I'm going to, you know, vacation or this and that. You're never going to succeed. That's it. You lost. I'm telling you right now, you lost. So any of the kids, like, you need to focus on that. Or if you want to go drinking with your buddies on Friday, or it's Thursday and there's no school, but you're running a business that you just started, forget about it. It's gone. You just gave up on what you're doing. Like, you need to focus on what you're doing. Like, you can find time for the family, and that's a choice you need to make. But at the end of the day, you want your business to succeed. You're the only one in charge. And I always tell people this, and everybody up here and anybody else that's an entrepreneur, it's lonely. It's lonely, because guess what? The buck stops with you, not anybody else. You can't say, oh, it was my boss's fault, or, oh, I'm leaving Friday, it's gone. It's every day. It's not going to stop. So understand, you need to be, I love it, don't get me wrong. I'm talking about it, but I love it. I live for it. I wouldn't live any other way. But understand, the buck stops with you. Whatever's going to happen, whatever it is you're going to do in life, there's no blaming anyone. It comes down to you. And there's no one you're going to be able to talk to that's going to, it's you. People will understand it, but ultimately it's coming down to you. So that's what you need to ask yourself. And if you're in here and you're just, like, if you're not ready for that, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with getting a great job and making X amount of dollars a year, and you have your car, and there's people who are happy with that. I mean, I have buddies of mine who are happy doing their job, come home, watch the football game or basketball game, and watch, you know, drink a few beers, order a pizza, and that's what they'll enjoy in their life. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you have to put a lot of those things aside. There's people who just make enough money and they like to be golfing all weekend. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to kind of, like he said, mean and, what was
Mean and lean.
Yeah, it was perfect. I mean, and I'm happy to hear that it's like it still exists, because he's a second-generation business owner, and that usually doesn't happen. Third-generation business owners, they usually fall apart. Why? Because, you know, you worry about your kids. Like, if you're successful, you better watch out. You know, I wear the same thing for my children. My children are going to grow up with a lot more money and success than I have, but you have to keep that drive in them. You know, you have to pass that drive on, and you hope that it continues. But that's definitely number one. You got to keep your personal expenses. I think Warren Buffett's the number one. He's lived in the same house that he bought when he was like 24 years old, and he's a billionaire. I mean, that's the best example that you could ever think of, because he didn't care. It was the process he enjoyed. It wasn't, now I can buy a bigger house. Sorry, I went on it. I just think that was the most important one. I seriously think what he said is the most important thing in anything you want to do, is you need to focus on your business. You need to find out what's the best way to advertise without spending any money. The best way that you can save money in yourself. You know, you don't need those new shoes or that, you know, car or that watch. You don't need it. It doesn't do anything. It's going to hurt you.
He done.
I feel like as a moderator, they're talking to me too because I'm I'm the guy like, listen, I need those $800 shoes. I need a new house. I need a new car. But it's so true. When you're starting out, so I had to learn that lesson myself. And, you know, as they're talking, I feel like they're actually really talking to me because when I first started out, it was good because you had people around you that were just throwing the cases at you, so I didn't really have to work or advertise for it. They just came. I had so many that I was saying, no, I can't take this, somebody else take it. But that ends at one point, and then it's like, okay, what are you gonna do now to further yourself? And at that point, I was really buying $800 shoes. I was living in Hoboken. I was like, yeah, why not? $2,800 in rent. So everything I literally stopped, regrouped. I was like, okay, sell this off, sell that off. And then you think about it again, and then you see what's important to you. And when you determine what's important to you, furthering your business versus, I guess, a nice car, even though I still like nice cars, but you'll get there at some point in time, and to each his own. You can still have the money to buy a nice car. I guess I disagree with them with the nice car. That's it.
So,
but very solid advice.
I think there's
Karen.
also things that become as important as money that can be bartered, for example. So when I started a business within Essence Magazine, they actually paid for my office space. They paid for a certain number of employees to work with me and gave me contracts to work for them. So there's other ways to think about capitalizing your business besides straight up money. And there are also ways that when you are your own boss, even though you're working all the time with that fire in your belly, it never lets you rest if you love what you're doing, there are ways to include what you also love outside of your business. I was a single mom with 2 kids, and I was able to think about how to include my kids in my business. So they traveled with me. I made that a condition of my contracts, right? And worked in family-friendly environments because that was important to me. And it was important to me to be able to say to my kids, I do something that you would be proud of too, right? So neither one of them ever wanted to do that later in life, which is fine. But they did appreciate family, and they understood that they didn't necessarily have to make a choice between how they lived and what they did for a living.
Scott, you see what you started? See what you started?
I think the original question was on capital, and it's human capital really is the biggest thing, and that's what we're all talking about. I mean, you're going to have to quit your job if you want to start a successful business. I mean, some people can start something part-time and their day off, but that's far and few between. So you got to quit your job, and you got to figure out how to pay for your rent or your house or whatever it is, and your family, and it's a lot of those things. And I've worked pretty much nonstop from when I graduated college up until about a year ago, and unlike everybody here who sounds like they're still grinding it out, I'm starting to go into that slow down phase and enjoy things. So at some point, some people don't, but you got to take the foot off the gas every now and then, and that's where I am. But if you can't devote 100% of your effort and brain power and everything else, like I said, I wouldn't do it. My wife said in the beginning when I first opened my business, she said I didn't sign on to be a single mom. So, it was rocky, but hopefully, gladly we got through it and everything. But that's it, I guess.
To say one more thing, what he said was a perfect example, and I thought it was key. You say we're paying $2,800, $3,000, let's say $3,000 a month it was costing you. The reason that he was saying you slim and you save is because that's $3,000. Now, there's nothing against it. You loved it, you learned from it, and you move it on. And I've done mistakes like that growing up, too, where I spent money I shouldn't have or done things that I shouldn't have. But I enjoyed it, and it's life experience. But I'll give you an example. At $3,000 a month, that's $36,000 a year. If he had found an apartment, let's say for $1,000 or something, and just, brought down his lifestyle, for 2 years he would have had an extra $48,000. 2 years, if he found something for $1,000 and just saved that extra $2,000, he'd have an additional $48,000. So now we're talking about capital. Now you have that $48,000 plus whatever else you could have saved during that time period. So grind it out for 2, 3, 4 years. Especially somebody in his 20s. That's why I tell people all the time, like, I grinded through my 17 through 18, 25 years old. I was making money, but I didn't spend a dime. I stayed at home with my mother. I didn't care. I built my first home. I think I was 21, 22 years old, and I built a 3-family home. And I moved into the basement unit for maybe 2 weeks, and then it was eating me alive that I wasn't getting the $1,500 or $1,400 a month, that I wasn't coming in. So I went back home, and then I had to go buy furniture. I said, screw this, I'm going to go back home and stay in my room that I grew up in. Those things add up because it gives you that capital. So if you're a college student or for whatever it is, if you can minimize your lifestyle, and I understand, and that's a whole different argument, if you have kids and family, that definitely complicates things. I mean, I had kids very young, and it does change the perspective. But if you don't, if there's college students, you need to listen, save it. But it doesn't mean, I have it, now I'm going to spend it on, I saved it on the rent, now I'm going to spend it, I'm going drinking. You missed the whole point. The point is to save it and raise the capital. At $3,000 a month, had he saved it, you're talking 2 years, $24,000. You know what I mean? So you save, 1 year you would save $24,000 and you go to this, 48, keep going. Now you have that capital to do something and keep striving for it. Or you didn't buy those $800 shoes or whatever. I'm not putting on, but I get it. I was there. You have your friends and you want to spend the money and you want to blow it, but
Right,
at the same time, you're setting your business back from getting to that point.
Right. Very true. Karen, you're up next. How do you create a business plan?
Yeah, so now vision boards are a big thing, right? Everybody is creating these vision boards so that they can work towards their goals and visualize their goals, which is a good thing. So for a business, your business plan is kind of your vision board. And it's also the signal to other people that you want to have them invest money or time or information. It's that tool that also helps them take you seriously because they know that you took the time to create a plan, we're thoughtful, we're serious, we're dedicated. And sometimes, I don't know, I'm a journaler and a writer. So a lot of times when I write something and then I go back to it, it helps me to see it more clearly. So it's like having a conversation with myself almost. And once you have your business plan done, and Google is everybody's friend, you can find lots of models for them. And if you know someone in the business that you're in who's written a plan, they probably will share it with you, or their first one, right? And it's a fluid document. So it gets updated as you meet certain benchmarks and milestones and get certain things done, or if you have to pivot, because sometimes mistakes are your best learning tools. So your business plan can also help you pivot, and you may end up doing something you hadn't thought about, but it becomes a byproduct of where you started out. So the business plan, I think, is an important tool, one, to help you see more clearly, and then secondly, for other people to really clearly understand what you're trying to do and to take you seriously when you have no track record starting out.
Okay. Jenny?
I think before you start on a business plan, you have to have an understanding of what you're going to do and what your business is and who your customer is and what's going to make them buy from you. Or, are you cheaper? Are you better? Are you more convenient? Because I think some people, so my funding company, we fund real estate projects, but I think people hear funding when they Google us and they send us all kinds of crazy business proposals. And sometimes I look at them, and half the time they're a joke. It's just people want to be in some kind of business to be in a business, and they don't understand, who's going to buy from them and what's going to make people buy from them. And Sal and I are in a real estate business, which is a little different because, we don't have, consumers like most businesses, but, people are in habits, and if you're going to open up a hair salon, what's going to make people come to you as opposed to the place they've been going to for the last 10 years? And that's either got to be, price or a better product or more convenient or all of the above. But people aren't just going to say, hey, there's a new place, let me go try it. There has to be a reason that motivates people to use your product or your business or whatever it is. And obviously, if it's something that doesn't exist, that's a different story. But probably the businesses that most of you guys will be looking at will not be these groundbreaking products, but you'll be just trying to do something a little better or a little cheaper or a little differently than somebody else. And that's really what you need to understand before you write this business plan, because I see them all the time, and most people don't follow what they write down anyway, and it's just a lot of fluff half the time, so.
Scott? Oh, Janeide, sorry.
I think a business plan is important because it's like your roadmap. Sometimes we get sidetracked, and like Karen said, sometimes we're pivoting. But the roadmap for me is the way to stay on course. And it's also a way in which you can brand yourself for marketing, because I didn't start out with a lot of capital, but when I left Kean, I learned the importance of marketing. I learned the importance of branding. And you have to brand yourself. And to stay on course, you should always look back at your to see where you started to where you are and where you
Scott?
Hey, just briefly to add to that, I think the key with a business plan is it's something that is really fluid and something that you think back on. About 5 years ago, I was on a plane and I was just trying to kind of do the year ahead, thinking of what I needed to execute, what I need to improve, what I need to get rid of. I had a pen, but I had nothing to write down on. I grabbed a barf bag in the seat in front of me on the plane. I started jotting thoughts down. 5 years later, I still have that. I go back to that and look, and I cross out the things that I've achieved. So it's more of a mental discipline that allows you to adjust your plan. It doesn't matter if it's a barf bag, a piece of paper, or some expensive software. It's really that you execute on it, that you take these ideas and document it, and then you execute on it. And you don't necessarily need to have a degree to do this. You don't need to spend a lot of money. You don't need to give it to somebody else to write for you. You need to write it if you're an entrepreneur. It's your business plan, and you need to really execute it, and that's the key. So you have to really understand all the things that were mentioned there, obviously, competition and what your goals are and all your basic stuff you have to outline, but jotting it down is only part of the solution. It's going back to it and seeing what you did successfully, what you didn't execute on, and then go find a way to do it. I always look for problems. My day is really finding the problem and then trying to find the solution for it, whether it's a people problem, a product problem, a customer support problem, a money problem, doesn't matter. You're really a problem solver if you're an entrepreneur. Depending upon what your business is, it'll vary greatly, but you can kind of use your business plan to that extent and tie those two together, and you'll find success each time.
Thank you. Next question is for Mark. So if you're currently working to support yourself, how do you make time to research and plan for your own startup?
I guess I kind of answered that before. If you don't have the time to devote to your business, just don't do it. And, you know, wait for the next opportunity to come, because doing something half-assed is just going to have a half-assed business, and it's not going to work. I'm sure everybody here devoted all the time that they needed, and then some to be successful. A couple years ago, I got bored with what I was doing, and I bought a wine bar, and didn't devote the time to it that it needed, and it ended up doing okay, but I got frustrated with, you know, moderate success, and I really looked back and I said, it's my own fault, because it was the redheaded stepchild of my life, and I would think about it, you know, 12 o'clock at night when I was going to bed, what needed to be done there, what didn't need to be done, who did I talk to, and I could see, you know, my main business where I focused 99% of my attention was successful, and the problems were avoided and everything else, and the little business I had that didn't get any of my time and attention suffered. So devote the time, or just go get a job. And there's nothing wrong, like you said, with, you know, having a job and making a good living. And I'm jealous mostly in life of my friends that have a 9-to-5 job, and you know, they call me at 6 o'clock and they say, you want to go grab a drink or something, and I say, no, I'm going to be in the office another couple hours. So there's a lot to be said for, you know, working, doing something you like, and calling it a day at 5 o'clock, and, you know, taking the weekends off.
Sleep less.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with both.
You gotta find the time, sleep less.
Sleep less. Also, what worked for me was in saving, having a bit of a savings before you quit your job. So if you know you want to start your own job, because rent doesn't stop if you're renting a place, bills don't stop if you have to pay them. So if you know you want to start your own business and you have about, let's say, a 5-year plan, in year 1 through 4, you should be doing nothing but saving. And that's what I did, because when I did quit my job, I had enough in savings to still be able to pay rent and take care of the day-to-day in the kind of like the gap in between when you're going to start making money in your own job, because the first year you really don't make any money. Second year, you'll make a little bit of money, but you won't really start seeing the money until year 3 to 5. So you should have a good savings to be able to, sustain you throughout that time. I think we'll take one more question, and then we can ask if there's any questions for the panel, for the audience. And the last question will go to Sal. What specific steps should you be prepared to take to promote and advertise your business?
Honestly, you should be prepared to do anything and everything that it takes. I mean, that's a pretty broad answer, but it's more along the lines of getting out there, getting in front of people, like I talked about before, which is going to find people who are in that space. Go try to get close to them. And I don't mean close to them in a manipulative way, but I mean, see what they're doing, see what's going on in their life, see what products or how they're pushing their products, or if that guy is the CEO or if that guy is the leader. Find out what he's doing. Doesn't mean, people talk about, you maybe read a book or something on them. I don't know if I would more follow exactly everything that they're doing. I would try to contact them. And nowadays, I mean, you can literally even tweet the President of the United States. I mean, where has the normal Joe Schmo have direct contact to the President of the United States? I mean, you can do that nowadays. Now, obviously, that's an extreme, but if you want somebody, you can contact them. You can direct message them in any way you want. I mean, there's Twitter, Facebook. I mean, you can send that person a message, or you might see that person place a message out there, or that company needs something and say, hey, I could do that. And it goes back to what I was talking about before. It's just give, give, give. People ask me all the time, how do you have so much time to do all these things? And I said, because I just do it. Or why do you waste your time with that? What are you doing? I'm constantly, and I try to just put it to the side. It's like people ask me all the time, why are you doing that? It's a waste of time. What are we getting involved in that for? What are you doing? Because I just believe you just give to the universe, just do it, give it, and I believe that it comes back. It may not come back from that person, but I believe it'll come back another way, or maybe 10 years from now. Who cares? In my mind, I did something. So what you're doing is you have to be willing to put yourself out there. Not, oh, I did that for you. Remember I did that for you years ago? Like, you can't do that. Remember what I did for you? No, now I need this. Don't. Just give. Just give. Eventually, I'm telling you, it always works. It always comes back one way or another. And that's what everybody needs to be prepared to do. People want to, nowadays, they want to do something, and I want something back. Like, stop. Just do it. Who cares? And like, it goes back to time. I mean, there's a lot of different factors of it, but just do it. I get that question all the time, and people are like, well, why are you doing that? Why am I doing this? Why am I sitting here right today?
Right.
And that's why are you wasting your time for? Because I'm giving. I don't care. If I can help someone else or I can get through to them, and that one person or two people does something in their life, and then one day maybe they'll run up to me, and which has happened. They'll be like, man, you talked to me one time. That was awesome. But whatever. That's the most fulfilling thing in the world to me. Now, it doesn't turn into monetary, but not everything has to be about, money. So you have to be willing to just give, 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 and give. I mean, one of the first things I did, I was like probably 18, 17, and I went to work for a guy with a huge company. I never took a paycheck from him. I went to work with him all the time. It was auto repossession, so it's like a whole nother animal. But I learned so much from him. Just how he handled his employees, just how we were repoing cars, so that was pretty fun time too. But I wasn't paid. I hung out with him day of day from 1 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock, and then I went to do my job. My work. I didn't have a job, but I would work. So you have to just be willing to give, 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 and give. And then eventually, come back a year or two later, I ended up doing business with him. I ended up, making a lot of money in some ventures that we did. But I never got into it to do that with him. I got into it because he was willing to let me tag along for free. You know, I didn't, not for free, but I said I'll do it for free, and he got a free help. Like, you need to be willing to give, and forget about it. And you can only do that if you're saving and you're doing the whole thing, so. Give as much as you can of your time. That's free.
Great. Janeide, you have something to say?
I want to agree, concur with him, with Sal, because I just literally got off the plane, and I did a book review in Miami. And a book review is you give out your books and you have people review them, and you're blessed by it because you know what to improve on and what you need to take away or what you need to add. And in the process of me doing that, just giving away, I met the president of Kansas, the rodeo, and him and his wife sat there, and as I gave them the books, they're like, no, we want to pay for it. And I'm like, no, it's okay. And I was having breakfast. He came back to me. He says, you know what? I love your inspiration. I love your book. And I love, your personality. Would you mind coming to Kansas with us and being a speaker at our rodeo? All expenses paid. And a lot of times we don't realize when we just give, I'm a giver at heart anyway, but, we just can't discriminate. We don't know who God is sending your way to be a blessing. And at the same time, I was blessed to go to Kansas, where I've never been, and speak at the 2017 rodeo, and I will receive an honorary just by giving. I didn't even plan this for my trip. And the second thing is I was honored to baptize someone in the Miami Ocean.
Wow.
And that was so fulfilling for me because it was my first baptism. So we don't know what God is going to do in the process of us giving. Just be willing to give, and don't be selfish about it, because God is going to bless you.
Very nice. Well, at this time, we'd like to open it up to the audience, if you guys have any questions.
Question is around finance. So I know that you touched on it, and a lot of people talked about how they started financially. But what is your take about venture capitalism funding out there today? Is it pretty much a fallacy? Is it pretty much you just have to have your own money, or is it still there for startup businesses?
I didn't go that route, so I don't know. I'll open it up to the other panelists, but
So I work in finance. It really depends on what you're talking about. If you want to open up a hair salon, finding venture capital is not going to be an option. Your best bet is your rich uncle or your neighbor or SBA loan. I mean, it took us a long time to get to the point where we could sell our loans to Wall Street, and they operate on such scale and that you need to be at a certain level before you can touch any kind of those markets. So and you need a proof of concept. So you would need to open your first store and show that it's profitable and customers like it and everything else, and then maybe you could go the next funding route to scale that business. But your first store is going to be an SBA loan or a home equity loan, or your parents or your uncle or whoever you can talk into it. I mean, with the Jobs Act it's a lot easier to raise private capital now. But that's a full-time job in itself, because you need to sell yourself and sell your business to somebody, and you have no track record. So that's a tough sell.
What's your business?
Specialty gift wrapping.
What does that mean?
So,
Can you give her a mic?
So I started out in public relations, doing specialty gift wrapping for companies like Escada and Maybelline and all of them. So I said, hey, that's a talent of mine. Why not go into business now? There's people that gift wrap occasionally.
Go more into what exactly your product. So you're gift wrapping
So
for
it's a
Christmas
spec-
gifts or people gifts that are people giving?
Everything, like you said, for all occasions. So especially gift wrapping for all occasions.
Why do you need a storefront?
Because I've done it, and I've done it out of my house, and it's really complicated. It's really
Do you have
tedious.
Instagram, Facebook?
I do, but
Do
then
you
I would
use it a
have to
lot?
have a van and then go to people, whereas the
Why would
people
you need a
could come
van?
to me.
I'm
Because-
I'm trying to help you here.
No, okay, so it's specialty gift wrapping.
Yeah.
So if I figure if I was in a mall, then
Yeah.
kind of the people will come to, will come to
But I don't
me.
think you need that nowadays. I think
No?
that you need to, what you should do is go, let's see. You said you have Instagram or Facebook, or do you utilize both of them? Do you utilize do you use it on a personal level, or do you use it for your business?
It's just personal.
Okay, you need to do one for your business. You need to do it for, I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Right.
What's the name of the
Ajuba.
company you want to start?
Rapping. It's more than rapping, it's creating. Rapping.
So the name of the company is Rapping. So you need to open up an Instagram, Facebook for Rappings. And you need to get it out there, and you need to start, like I was talking about before, is find somebody who has a lot of followers, find out something that they're doing, or give, say, hey, do you have, I will come to you and wrap it for free for you. And go do it, and show them what, or go somewhere to a company or a business local and say, I'm going to wrap for you during the holidays for free. And sit there and say, what do you mean? Say, yeah, I'll sit here. You buy the paper, okay, and I will sit here and wrap for you your gifts as you sell your product. Now, you're going to have to, it goes back to what I was saying before, you're going to give your time. So you find your time to give it. And then look what's going to happen. People are going to be buying at that store, and they're going to say, who's the person that did the wrapping? You don't need a storefront. It would never work. And then it goes back to what he said before. Now you're going to start with all this overhead.
Right.
And just go to a store and say, they're going to look at you like, say, just buy all the wrapping paper, and as people get gifts, I will happily sit here and wrap for free. And you offer it to your clients. Now you've gotten a free storefront. And if people want to pay you anything or do anything, say, look, you give them your card. Say, by the way, if you're ever having a special event, or if you're ever having a baby shower, or ever something else, give me a call. We do special wrappings. But you need to expand past wrappings. You can't just do wrappings. You need to be able to expand on that.
Yeah, it's
Clearly, if
promotional
you're
packaging too, with like promotional packaging.
there you
like
go.
that
So there has to
right.
be other aspects that you can do for it. Somebody might walk into that store, it might be an executive of a company, and they say, wow, this is great, and you give them their card. Now they're running an event at their company, and they're giving all their company for the holidays gifts, and they need somebody to come into that company. Well, where did they find you? When they went to go buy their bottle of wine, and you were sitting at the liquor store to wrap it. I'm telling you right now, we own a liquor store here local by. If you wanted to come by, I could set you up, and during the holidays, you can welcome and wrap it, give your card out to everyone you want, and we will buy all the wrappings.
All right, I like that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, stand up. Okay. I'm sorry. She wants me to feel special and stand up. Let me come out the jacket. Hi, how you doing? My name is Brad Butler. I'm a motivational speaker, so I've already actually started my career path. I've spoken at middle schools, high schools. I've even gotten to the point where I was speaking at universities now. I actually have to speak at Rutgers University again tomorrow. I've spoken here as well. I'm sorry, I meant to tell you about that, sorry. I spoke here at Kean University as well. And like you said, with the fact that you have to give and give and give and give and never ask for anything back, I do that. I go to the schools. I never ask for a dime. I never ask for a thing from them. I just say, give me the opportunity to speak to your children so that I can empower them. That's all I ask for. Any opportunity that's given me, I take it. I don't care where you want me to go, where you want me to be. I've actually been asked to come to Connecticut. I don't care. I'm going. Like, I don't necessarily know if I have the money at the time or whatever, but I tell them I'm coming. I'm going to figure it out. So my question is, how do you know when you're just giving and giving and giving and giving? How do you know if there's somebody or a company or organization that at some point they just start to use you, and it's no longer like voluntary work anymore? It's like they're just using you to get everything they can from you.
I agree with what they said about giving, and I'm on the Arts Foundation of Atlantic City and another charitable organization, and giving's very important, but ultimately you have to make money and you have to figure out a way to monetize your business, and giving away gift wrapping is a great way to get her business started, but ultimately you need a plan of how to be profitable and how to get paying clients, and that's just phase one, is kind of building your business, and free speaking at colleges is phase one, but and I don't know anything about being a professional speaker, obviously, but you're going to have to figure out how to monetize that somehow, and I don't know how that happens, but You can't be a free speaker your whole life, and you can't be a free gift wrapper your whole life. So that's where having a plan for what your business actually does and who your customers are and what's going to make them give you money is important. So,
You say motivational speaking. What are you, is it positive speak? Like, what exactly are you?
I mainly focus on student and student athletes. I have a number of other categories that I want to get into, but I haven't started working on those yet. I'm focusing on just, honing my craft and just making sure I got everything down as far as talking to students and student athletes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What, and I don't mean this at all, I mean, I could talk to you privately if you.
Yeah, no problem.
I always ask people is, why would I want to listen to you? Like,
Because
do I know, it's not like, and I say this all the time, like, I'm not made for certain things just because I know, and I know how to get those and expand those businesses, like I was telling her about Instagram and Facebook. I don't like a lot of it because I like my privacy, I like a thing. But I always see people and I would ask them, like, well, where do you come? Why should I listen to you? Like, what have you accomplished that proves to me, and I'm not saying you in general, and it can go for the gift wrapping as well, or whatever it is you're going to do. What have you accomplished in your life, or what have you done that qualifies you to be that professional and say, hey, I want to charge $10,000 to speak here? Because Kim Kardashian probably doesn't have a vocabulary past a third grader, gets speaking engagements where they pay her $150,000 or $200,000. You know what I mean? So you can't, monetize, that's easily monetized. And they'll speak, and God knows what she'll say, but they'll pay her $200,000 for 30 minutes of her time. So that's what you need to figure out in yourself is how can you monetize yourself and then, really say I'm a professional and it's because of this. Like we sit up here and they invite us to come here because we have, businesses and things that we've done and obviously we're not being paid for it. But
So I think there was a point at which Kim Kardashian figured out that she could make a living talking like a
So I
third
think you're
grader. And for you, you probably need to decide when you want to start making that a career and an entrepreneurial venture versus something you just want to do. Because you can give, but you can also get paid.
Right.
You can also turn it into a business. There are days when what I do, I'm almost a little guilty that and I would never say this to my board, but I'm like, I love this so much that I almost can't put a number, I can, but I'm almost embarrassed to put a number on what I do because I love what I do. And part of the reason that I know I'm an entrepreneur is because I never fit into any jobs that I ever saw out there, but I knew I had to make a living. I had responsibilities, and it's not a bad thing to make money. That is not a bad thing. You can help people with money, right?
The other thing I'll tell you is that you said the people, and going back to the asking and the giving, there's very complicated when it comes to the asking and the giving. But my question is, when you're saying people keep asking you, so you keep going back to the same things and they're doing it for free over and over and over, you're saying?
Not to the same people, but I'm asking in the
Or
future.
other people are calling at, like you spoke here today and people say, oh, it was great, would you mind speaking at my event over here?
Right. There's some
Okay, so
other
you're
people
building
that
your
ask.
brand.
Yes.
And building your brand, and especially in that type of space, that's a difficult space. I mean, I can go to YouTube and find 10 million motivational speakers, for 2 seconds, and they'll do it for free. So you're in a very difficult space in order to monetize on it. Because especially nowadays, like I said, YouTube, Google, you're in an uphill battle, and I don't think that unless you quantify something that you've done to make you, doesn't necessarily mean what you've done, because obviously we go back to the Kim Kardashian, it's what and why people want to come see you. Because everybody's a motivational speaker nowadays, and like I said, YouTube, Google, it's just not that world anymore. So you need to make yourself shine first, you need to do something first, and then the asking will come to you, and when they come to ask, they will expect to pay you, they will expect to do it. And if you keep giving, that's what I'm saying, so if you go back to the same place, if you're speaking and keep coming back, eventually, if you say, look, I just can't do it, they're going to say, well, how about if I pay you X? Now it's turned into what you wanted it to turn into.
May I answer your question?
Go ahead.
The beginning question. In the beginning, you said, why would you want to hear me and what would make me different, right? What you said earlier is that there's 1 million people out there who are, claiming to be motivational speakers, right? Okay. What I would say, which makes me different from all those people, is my story. My story is obviously going to be different from anybody else's. But on top of that, there are people who get something confused. They get their gift and their passion confused. Some people are doing things and they think that their passion is what they're supposed to be doing with their life, whereas your gift is something that's been given to you from the Creator, and you can't have that taken away from you. My gift is that I'm a motivational speaker. My gift is that I'm an empower. My gift is that I go out and I help the youth. I want to give back to my community. That is what makes me different from the other people. My why is what makes me different. Other people are doing it and they don't have a why. They don't have a real reason for it.
I believe you, and I'm not. It seems. I mean, you sit up here, you talk better than I do. You have a gift, but the problem is that, and a lot of people in this world, some people have all different gifts, and we'll never see them. There's people who probably have a gift in entrepreneurship, but you know what? They don't have the stomach to take it. There's people who could be the best athletes in the world, but they don't have the drive. So it's not just having the gift. It's you have to have the drive, you have to have the story, and you also have, in your case, some sort of a luck that you can get your story out there. Because most people will pay for a speaker who went to Iraq and was in a war. I mean, that guy, you want to hear about his story. So not to say you're growing up or whatever it is, your story needs to stand out more than other people's, and then it needs to become, a number in and of itself. And that goes with anything. It goes even with like a business plan. Like you have to be able to do something and disturb space and do your own thing without anyone else doing the same thing. That's all it is. But good luck to you.
Thank you.
You said your name again?
Brad Butler.
Brad.
I think
Next,
she's at the back
you're
jumping.
next.
B-Rad Inspires. Instagram, B-Rad Inspires.
It's a tough business. You're in a tough business, man. I wish you the best of luck.
Can I add one thing? Because I am a speaker and I do get paid. And I'm not the type of person, as a kid growing up in school, I couldn't talk in front of an audience. I wouldn't look at you in the face, but you can learn to do it if you have a story to tell, kind of to his point. And that's the key. How do you get your story out is how you get paid to speak. What I learned is write a book. Write a book. You have a story to tell. So I turned a problem of our company getting hacked into a story. I'm a terrible writer. I took a course here at Kean and learned how to write because I knew how to work computers, and the professor gave me an ace in the course because I helped with computers. He helped me learn how to write a little bit, but I'm a terrible writer. But now I get paid to write. I write for Fortune magazine. I write blogs. I wrote a book and sell it. You use the book, that's your new business card. If you take a book, it creates an instant perception that you're a specialty in a niche industry. So if you're a motivational speaker or whatever in that little niche, write a book, which is basically a series of short blogs. You can write a blog, 400, 500 words, put them together, make sure the story flows throughout, it's a book. You give 1 million of your books away, a couple hundred books away, and guess what? People start calling you. You can go to a college like this and you could speak. I go to other colleges and they pay me. How do they do that? Because some have budgets, some work with Small Business Administration and other groups and Chamber of Commerce, and they come up with funds and say, hey. And one of the most important things I learned, it took a few years to do this, and I speak maybe about 2 to 3 times a week on average, and I do a lot of them for free, is ask. Most people don't ask. And that's the number one thing I learned. They say, oh, could you come and speak? Sure. I said, well, I do have a fee. Here's what the fee is. And most people say, oh, we have no budget or this or that. That's okay. When you have a budget, give me a call back. And guess what? They call back and say, you know what? We've got a budget. Okay, it's not your speaking fee, but we could do this. Or we'll buy 100 books and give you a partial fee. And guess what? It actually works out. It's not a full-time job that I do because I'm running a business, but the brand part of it, that's probably the hardest part that I think most people miss, I know I missed it, is create a book. Because this I could hand to somebody, and now they're reading my story, and they say, ooh, that's interesting. Would you be willing to come and speak? So now I get paid to talk about my book, and they buy my book, and I give it out to people. It's a win-win-win.
Write a book.
Write a book.
I'll buy the first copy.
We had a suggestion here of Toastmasters also. There's a Toastmasters at Kean.
Hi. Sure. My name is Luana, and everybody says it's very hard to start a business, right? It can take 1 year, can take 2 years for you to see profit. So I'm getting the point of, okay, when you get that point that you say, okay, I should keep pushing and pushing and working harder, or maybe I should just give up because it's not a good business idea. Right? When you have this feeling, because I had a business idea, I spoke with many people, I got their feedback, you do the marketing research, you start doing like free pre-orientation to get more ideas to brand you. But when you go back to the market and you ask for money, you're not getting back, right? So I don't know if the business idea is not good, or maybe I should push more, right? Maybe I should invest more in marketing, branding. So
What's the idea? Tell us about it.
So as you can see, I'm not from U.S., right? I came to U.S. I'm from Brazil. I studied here. I got my MBA from Kean University. I worked for a global company doing talent, like global talent management. So American companies come to me if they cannot find like talent in U.S. So I go abroad and I find the talent, the skills, and I hire for them, develop the team, and I help them to manage like offshore, outsource, or bring here. So I realized, working with companies, I realized that actually there are very good professionals out there that they want to build up a global career, but they don't know how to do it, right? So for many reasons, maybe they don't have the same communication style, maybe they don't know how to work with a global company, whatever, right? So I create this e-commerce platform where professionals can go there and find anything. So in my point of view, these professionals need information, professional orientation, and networking. So that's what I'm offering my platform. So for example, they can go and find, evaluate their own professional profile to see if they are strong or not in building up like a global career, being hired by a global company, getting visa, such as, or they can come to my platform and say, oh, you know what, I don't know if my English is good enough. So we would do like evaluating their communication skills and say, look, you have to improve that, you have to do that. Or they are actually being invited for global selection process, but they're failing and they don't know why. So they can go to my platform and figure it out, right? More or less. I spoke a lot.
It's basically international business?
Yeah, I don't really understand.
Is it basically so people going to do business in another country can understand how to operate in that country?
No. It's like, for example, I specialize in maybe in global talent management, right?
Global management?
Global management,
So if I
yes.
want to hire somebody from another country?
Yes. So, for example, I have been working with American companies, European companies, South American companies, right? So, for example, in US, it's very hard to find Magento skills set. Very hard. So they come to me, and it's my job and find the Magento skill set, doesn't matter where in the world, hire for them, develop the team, and manage the team, right? That's what I have been doing for companies.
I'm going to cut you off for a second.
Sure, sure.
Because I know that he's running out of time. I think that the complexity of your business would have to be better understood for anybody up here to be able to give you a true response.
Sure.
If we have a few minutes afterward, I know there's a few other people that wanted
sounds
some
good,
questions.
of
I think
course.
I'd be happy to help you if I
Sure.
could in any way.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
I
We'll
think
take
the key
one more
question is,
question.
do you believe in the idea, though? Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in your own idea, I heard hesitation, then maybe it's not a great idea. Ask yourself that.
I think at the base there, she had a general question also about how do you decide when to push through or when to give up? So I don't know if Mark wants to mention that maybe with a wine bar, or if, if any decisions there, when do you keep going and investing in it, and when do you decide to cut your losses?
Well, I kept going because for a while there was a good tax write-off, and like I said, I like to drink good wine, so it kind of had it available to me, so that's a bad example. I mean, it sounds like you were doing this for another company, and now you're starting to do it on your own.
Yes, but like for 8 years, I have been working just with companies. So I left my job, and now I want to do with the professional side. Because most of the time, I was able to make things happen between a company and a global talent pool or team, because I was there adjusting, right? So my idea now is to offer whatever I learned, what companies want, what immigration process is for the professional side now.
Well, I mean, you're young, so I would say you're half in. You might as well go all in until you run out of money or give up. Don't stop now if you believe in what you're doing. And that goes for everybody. If you're not willing to go all in, don't go in at all. That's the way I feel.
Take one more question.
Good evening. You guys all did great tonight. Thank you so much. I, like the man over here, want to be a motivational speaker, coach, mentor, whatever it may be. And you say you'd have to have a story. A lot of my story goes through Kean here, as far as what I went through as a non-traditional student. I, too, started college at 31. I didn't start a business at 17. I'd like to start one at 51 as opposed to 17. As far as a book, I wrote a book. I have, 21,000 words or so, looking for a publisher, weighing traditional versus self-publishing, this and that. You all came up with different ideas, and your business are all farther along than the other, whatever it may be. At what point did you decide to, I don't know what to call it, monetize it or take it to the market and take it to the next step? Like, what point did you say, now's the time, I have something, I'm going to run with it? That was my question, so thank you.
I monetized from day one.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. I worked at an appraisal company, and I said I could do this on my own, and I could do it. You know, my competitive advantage was I could do it cheaper than the company I was working with.
Okay.
I worked out of my house. I didn't have, the overhead of an office. I didn't have a secretary. I didn't have all that stuff. So I said I could do it cheaper. I opened up out of my house. I started making money right away. So I monetized from day one. Some businesses, I understand that's not possible.
Right.
But I think you have to understand that how you're going to monetize right away, or you don't have a business, you have a hobby.
Sure.
After we opened our first school, I only intended to do K-8, but then parents said, we want to keep our kids in the system. And so we actually grew by acquiring a high school and taking it over and merging it into our system. And we've really grown when there's been a demand for us to grow. So we grew from 1 school to 4 schools, but it was based on having a waiting list of kids, owning our own facilities, and being able to put all the pieces we needed to control and have a margin that made some sense to successfully run the business.
And the same thing that what I said to him before. What I personally believe is I don't believe, and I like what he said before, it's like your side gig. It's like what you do on the side. I don't necessarily believe that, and it may be somebody who's accomplished throughout so much through their life. I'm not sure if I believe a motivational speaker should be your A job or your A company. I just don't think that I personally wouldn't, if somebody's job was to do that, I mean, in essence, you have a psychologist that you talk to, and that's basically you're bordering the line of being a psychologist. I mean, people go to a doctor and they sit there and talk about their problems, and that person motivates them. So you're in a very difficult space to make that your prime. Like he said before, he's monetized it, but that's his golf money, or that's his, that's whatever he's enjoying himself. I don't think that's his primary income. He's got a business for 45 years. He can justify talking and motivating people because while he's doing it, he'd say, I have been running my company for 45 years. I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this, and he's monetized it, which is great. There's a lot of things. Everything I do to make money is fun. It's also stressful, but, it doesn't matter. You get beyond it. So I don't think necessarily, and it's not, listen, I could be completely wrong. What the hell do I know? But I don't think that motivational speaking should be the A job. I think that that's a B or a C or speaking. And if you're doing it and you keep driving for it, it's going to be so hard because, like I said, it comes after. You've built this company. Now you can have the right for somebody to listen to. Because I wouldn't want to listen to somebody if they haven't done it. And it doesn't mean money. You could have gone and saved the whales and jumped off of a ship. I would want to hear from you. You know what I mean? But you had to have done something that really shocked the world or something different to be that motivational speaker.
Yeah, I want to say, I have a friend of mine, and I loosely refer to him as my life coach. And he started a $100 million plus finance company and built it up over how many years and sold it. And he's the guy I go to when I have questions about, business and direction and what I want to do. And I trust what he says because he's successful. I wouldn't trust a life coach that became a life coach out of college or a motivational speaker that didn't accomplish something, and whatever that is. Like he said, it doesn't have to be monetary. But to monetize your business, if you came to me and you said, I could come to your staff and talk to them and increase your productivity or increase your revenue or increase morale, if you could prove to me that you could do something for me, well, then maybe I would consider it. But I don't want to have a motivational speaker come to my office just to have a motivational speaker. So to monetize, you have to prove what your value is to someone and what their benefit is going to be.
Your story.
Yeah, the story is the number one key thing, I think. I've heard a lot of speakers, like Frank Abagnale, if anyone ever saw that movie there, Catch Me If We Can.
Catch Me If You Can.
So I sat up in the front row, sat next to him, chatted with him afterward. He had a story. And there's about 1,000 business executives that were listening to his story. You know what was funny? At the end of his story, I turned around and there was 1,000 grown men crying. He had a story that touched your heart. So when you could tell a story effectively, you could reach people's hearts. Yeah, you could do well and they pay you a lot of money and cover your expenses and all that stuff. But he was a real person. I wrote him and thanked him afterward, and guess what? Within 2 hours, he wrote back to me. So you can actually connect with people that share their story. So think about, what is your story? That's more important than being a great speaker or dressing fancy or who you know or anything else. Tell the story.
Follow his story, though. He was a criminal.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Most of the great speakers have kind of jaded past. A lot of the hackers that I know, they've spent a lot of time in jail.
Yeah.
The Kevin Mitnicks of the world, 2-3 years in federal penitentiary. He's got a great story, though. He's got a lot of great books. You want to hear the story, and when someone's on the edge, and how did you get caught, and when you go down that path, it's actually kind of like a murder mystery. It's exciting. That's what people want to hear. When you're standing at the checkout line, what magazines are you reading?
Like the guy who wrote The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
now
exactly.
he's a motivational speaker. Because why? Because you want to learn about you. He rode that wave. And the same guy, Frank Abagnale. Abagnale, I think it was supposed to be pronounced.
Yeah, it's technically.
But anyway, he was a criminal. He went to jail. I mean, you have to have. They made a movie out of him. They made a movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, too. Like, those are people that I would like to hear just because it's a great life story. So, I'm not telling you to go out and break the law, and I don't think he's done that to blow something up, but there's crazy people and they just want to hear it. Same thing with the Kim Kardashian thing. Why? Because how did she get millions and millions of people to watch, you could say whatever it was, the sex tape, but she continued it. Or other people like this guy and the criminals, they let people know the story and then people were intrigued. That's your best thing. So it's very hard. Like I said, those people can make it their A game.
The other thing is listen to speakers, too. That's a very helpful thing. Like Robert Herjavec, if you guys know the guy from the Shark Tank and Dancing or whatever. So I went up to his event and interviewed him and a couple other executives there. But listening to him connect with the audience, he has a story coming to this country and understanding, and again, wrote books, speaks regularly. If you use your story, whatever it's unique about you, if you have one, that's what you should start to go around for free, tell your story to everyone, see if it connects with people. Write about it, then write a book, and then take it to the next level, and it should work.
So probably for 20 years, I worked with Susan Taylor, the former editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine, whose story is not unlike a lot of other African-American women. But she was a good speaker, and she gave people hope and a pathway in life, and she encouraged them. And she became really the brand for Essence Magazine and all of the Essence products. So people believed in the products because she convinced them to believe in her. So sometimes the speaking, and I think somebody said this, is the secondary piece. So she started out as editor-in-chief of a magazine, but she became almost synonymous with that brand, and everything that was ever sold under the Essence name became equated with Susan Taylor.
I listened to it.
Well, I think at this point, this concludes the portion of this program. Thank you guys for coming. Some of us will stay around, or all of us will stay around for a couple of minutes or hour. And if you have any comments, questions, you can get everybody's business cards. I'm sure they have it. This has been Kean's version of Shark Tank, so hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and especially to the speakers for taking their time out of their very busy lives to come talk to us tonight. And on behalf of the Alumni Association, we just have some gifts for you, so you can remember this night forever.
What was this? Oh, a gift. Yeah, we were actually, the one we were doing now was the working wage, HFF.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're bridge. So we're just bridge.